Hey, what's up everybody, Nick here, and welcome back to Call of Duty Infinite Warfare on Veteran difficulty, and now we're going to be tackling one of the side missions in the game called Decon, and this is a ship assault. So the side missions are split into two categories. There are the ship boarding missions, and there are the Jackal strikes. This one, however, Decon, it actually starts off with a Jackal mission, and then, so what we have to do here is just clear out all of the enemy ships, and then we can board the big gunship. These missions are actually a lot of fun, I think. I actually would even go as far to say that I had more fun playing these side missions than I did playing the entire campaign. But I should say that's only for the ship assault missions, because I found, so all in all there's 9 side missions, and I think I want to say 4 of them are actual, like, regular Call of Duty, you board the ship and you do stuff, and then 5 of them are all in your gunship that we're in right now. I am not a big fan of these sequences that you see me doing right now, because all it is just flying around with a really shaky camera fighting off these enemy ships, and it's very hectic. It's not all that challenging, but it's just kind of annoying. Like, I don't get any satisfaction shooting these little ships out of the sky. But the missions where we actually board the ships, like this one, and where we get to do stuff on the ground, they're actually a lot of fun, because most of them are highly stealth based, and that's always my favorite type of game, are stealth games. So for example, like, even though it wasn't the best of video games overall, the game Thief, Thief was a big stealth game. You could actually get through that entire game without ever being spotted, without ever having to kill an enemy, and those are the type of games I really like. Like, I remember all the old Splinter Cell games, and so obviously this is Call of Duty. It's a completely different ball field, but they do a really good job in this game of incorporating some stealth elements, and while it's not all that tricky, it's still a lot of fun to play. And so what you're going to do is, keep in mind we're playing on Veteran difficulty, nothing too big to worry about. However, I will say that out of all the ground missions, and when I say ground missions, again, I mean the ones where we actually get out of our ship. Out of all the ground missions, this one, Decon, is actually probably the hardest, because we have this little sequence where we have to do a proximity hack, and it goes really slowly, and the enemies will tend to rush you, so you'll see what I mean when we get to that area. But this one can be, in my opinion, the toughest one of all 9 side missions, and so that's why I'm here to walk you through it. But basically, once you board this enemy ship here, now the real bulk of this mission begins. And keep in mind, another great thing about these side missions is that they're nice and short. They're not drawn out at all. Like some of the campaign missions, yeah, it's understandable because it's the main campaign, but some of those missions could go for up to like 45, 50 minutes. These ones are all pretty much under 20 minutes. I think there's one that goes a little bit over 20, but that's also the best one out of all of them, in my opinion. Yeah, so these are relatively short. I think this one's only about 10 or 11 minutes. You're gonna start off with this gun here, and this gun's really good because the scope that it has, it highlights enemies in yellow, as you see on my screen, and it makes it a lot easier to know where the enemies are and if you're clear or not to keep moving. And so for this part here, like I said, nothing overly difficult. Just kind of follow through the events. There's a couple firefights here and there, a couple enemies at a time, but nothing that, chances are you're approaching these side missions after you already beat the main game. And so if you've already beaten the main game on Veteran, and now you're going through mopping up all the side missions, these really should be a piece of cake, because the main campaign is a lot harder. It's a lot more hectic, and so now the firefights that we come to in these side missions seem like a piece of cake, because we're just so used to the game on Veteran. So you come to this room here. Same thing, just wipe out the guys from across the map. Again, the gun that you start with makes it incredibly easy, because it highlights the enemies. I think it highlights them even if they are behind cover, so that's pretty nice. One cool thing here that you can do, so this is the introduction of disabling the life support systems. So every once in a while, we basically hacked into the system, and you can disable the life support systems, which turns off the ship's little gravity field. And so everyone will float upwards when that turns off for a limited amount of time, and that's the reason you use that is because when you do that, the enemies will float up and become all disoriented, and then you'll have a brief amount of time to shoot them out of the air before they're able to really get their bearings and shoot back at you. And that is going to be somewhat useful during that proximity hack section, but keep in mind that if there are a lot of enemies and you do that, some of them will be able to shoot you back, and you know the thing works for you as well. If gravity gets turned off, it gets turned off for everyone, and so if you're just floating up in the air, you don't have a lot of cover, and on veteran that can really hurt you. So make sure you use those sparingly and you use them intelligently. So if you're in a room, as you'll see this happens, if you're in a room with 30 plus enemies, it might not be a good idea to use that, because then there's a lot of enemies that have the opportunity to shoot you out of the air. So kind of try to clear out rooms, and then for the last remainder of the enemies, feel free to use it. So once you clear out this room, stock up on tech. So what you're going to want to do is grab Seekers. That is a necessity here. And then you can grab whatever else you want. I'd recommend getting a shield. You should already have one. And now we're going to start the proximity hack. So you saw the screen, you saw the video cut right there, because once you start this hack, that's when the trouble starts coming. So all the enemies right now are going to come through this door here. Aim your sights at the door and start unloading as soon as it opens, and just try to take at this point, just try to take out as many incoming enemies as you can. Duck down, and then the best thing you could do is hack one of the robots. So make sure you should start off with them, but make sure you pick up these hacking charges. Then with the robot's control, run around, kill as many regular human enemies as you can, and then at the last second run up to a crowd of enemies and use that self-destruct. And you can see here how I'm laying behind this red barrier here. And you can see there's really not a lot of cover to be had in this area. So that's why right now I used the disable life support systems. I shot some enemies, and now I'm laying back down behind this red thing. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw out all 4 of my Seekers. These things are incredibly powerful. They're basically instant kills, and so make sure you use those as soon as you can. And then I'm going to jump back into the robot hack device. And so notice here how the main thing that's going to make you successful in this section is not really relying on your gun a whole lot. It's mostly relying on your equipment. So I'm using robot hacks, I'm using Seekers, I'm using the life support system, and then what you're going to want to do is as soon as the proximity hack is over, open this door and run inside. And that's because, like I said, the enemies have a huge tendency to want to rush you, and if you hide in this room right here, you automatically have a lot more cover available, and you can basically stay in this room for the remainder of the fight and pick off the enemies one by one a lot easier. And so yeah, like I said, as soon as you finish that proximity hack, make sure you go into this room. Right here you can access this little thing. It's not necessary. I think it's kind of like a in-game collectible. Yeah, so don't worry about that. You can see right here an enemy actually came into this room and didn't realize I was in here. So this really is a prime place to be for the end of the firefight. And then what you're going to mainly want to do is once things calm down and you don't hear as much gunfire, that's when you know that you're nearing the end of this fight. However, you do not get a checkpoint until you wipe out this entire room. And so that's where you got to be really careful, because like I said, this is probably the hardest. This is probably, in my opinion, the hardest side mission, and this is the hardest part within the hardest side mission. So you really, if you get this far, you do not want to die, because this part can be really challenging and you don't want to have to do it all over again. So then, like I said, once things calm down, you can feel free to come out here and grab some more Seekers if you want, and that's because the enemies hide themselves pretty well, and so those Seekers are basically instant kills. And so if you just can't find the enemy and you don't want to risk popping your head out and getting sniped or something, then you can use those Seekers. But eventually the fight will be over, and you'll know, because the game will give you a new objective to prime these missiles here with explosives. And From that point, you'll get a checkpoint, and then congratulations, you are pretty much done with this side mission. Now you just have to work your way back to your ship. So there you go. Hopefully that helped you get through this. If it did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you get the chance, leave a comment below letting me know what you thought of the game, and personally, I'd like to know what you think of these side missions, because I found that the side missions were really enjoyable, and I'll be talking about them through the other videos, in the other videos, more in depth. Perhaps the last challenge here is, on your way out, you come to this hangar here, and there's another small firefight to do, and this one has one of those robots with the shields. These guys aren't that hard, especially because here we have the higher ground, but if you have shot grenades and anti-grav grenades, use them on him and it makes your job a lot easier. All you have to do is hit him with one grenade, and then you can unload gunfire on him while he's damaged. Once you get through there, run back to the ship and you're good to go. So that's it, guys. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in more of the side mission videos.
Ethan, we are clearing the target. Blow the charges.
Our charge relays are passed to your cockpit. Get clear and let her rip.
Scars, clear the target. Blowing the charges.
That should get their attention.
Hellas destroyed. One more out of the fight. Form up. Let's go home. Raider to main. Mission accomplished. We're RTB.
Hard copy, Captain. We've got you on radar. Fly safe.